The Village of Bartlett Committee of the whole meeting. Call this meeting to order. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Ahrens? Here. Kammerer? Here. Carbonaro?
Here.
Martin?
Here.
Ranke?
Here.
Shipman? Absent. President Wallace?
Here. The only item on the agenda for the Committee of the whole meeting this evening is under the Finance and Golf Committee. Chairman Ranke.
Mr. President, we have the 2014-2015 proposed budget review. It's my understanding that we have a follow-up discussion regarding golf, and then we'll finish off the rest of the budget tonight.
Happy to do that.
Happy to turn that over. Let's get started.
Great. I'll have Bob come up and sit up here and participate in that discussion. We included in the packet some information relative to some of the issues that the board raised at the last meeting. And should we go through that first, Trustee Ranke?
Yes,
and
please.
To begin the discussion after that. So, Bob, if you want to go through that response that we sent out on those different areas, I would appreciate it.
All right, thank you. Well, the areas that we addressed were staffing, especially related to off-season activities, advertising, how we're getting the word out, using point-of-sale, internet, publications, website. Our fee schedule, there's an attachment there, a fee schedule, and the rate survey that we did last year, and also attached some food and beverage information as far as top website sources.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Is your microphone on?
Yes, it is. I'm sorry. I'll get it closer to me. I apologize. Okay. Is that better? Yeah. We'll get there. All right. Thanks. Starting with advertising in the golf operation, of course, the number one source for us is our website and our email list of over 3,000 emails that we use for monthly newsletters and we send bullet points out and that type of thing, and information related to special occasions and that type of thing. So we do that quite a bit, and that's been something that we've done over the last year and a half. Also, our website we use. We get a lot of hits. The golf course in general gets a lot of hits on our website, and of course, the number one use, and it's the best use of that website for us at this point, is making tee times through our website. That's so important that people can go there and easily navigate through our website and make tee times. That does a number of things. One, it makes it easy for them. We get information on them, including their email addresses and pertinent information, and also we. That's the best way to put it. Besides the information, we also eliminate a lot of phone calls in the golf shop, which eliminates having to have a lot of extra staff in the golf shop too, because the phone doesn't ring as much when they're using the website. We do use the Bartletter, especially before the season and for our winter activities, that type of thing. We do have used the municipal cable channel. We've used third-party tee time providers recently. Now, this last year we used Golf Now. Prior to that, we used Great Greens Fees. They both accomplished the same thing. About 7% of our play generated about $100,000 in revenue. Any promotions that we do out there, that we have out there in the marketplace, always includes a cart. We never promote just the greens fee itself. It's got to be a green fee and cart. So that's been okay. The biggest analysis of third-party tee time features is what's it costing us, and that's what we have to look at. Every year we look at that. Our sign, of course, on 59, we utilize that. Food and beverage does a lot. We do too for special occasions again. We use various golf publications. Don't get in the paper too much, that type of thing, but we do use golf publications. We were in Chicagoland Golfer while that was a prevalent entity out there in the golf. We like to focus our energies on any publications where people reading it are 100% golfers. As an example, if you're in a newspaper, you might be paying a lot of money for newspaper ads, but maybe only 10% of those people are golfers. And are really looking, so you're really not getting the best bang for your buck. And that's why we really focus on the golf journals, that type of thing. And of course, Yellow Pages, we're still there. We're still there because people still use them and people still go to the Yellow Page websites and that type of thing. We just use it to keep our name out there. We're certainly in the Bartlett one, which also includes, I think, 32 other communities in this general area, where the majority of our play comes from. The food and beverage operation, of course, they use the website a lot, especially for banquets. Not only promoting the banquets, but staging the banquets online with menus and that type of thing. They have a pretty good feel of where their clientele comes from, where they're looking at, what they're looking at, and they adjust accordingly. Certainly, and this the food and beverage put in the word of mouth. That holds true for everything at the golf course. Word of mouth has always been our best mode of advertising. They use several magazines and that type of thing. There is a list, an attachment here of websites and the number of hits that we've been getting on those websites for food and beverage, and the frequency and the time spent and that type of thing. That's also an attachment there that hopefully you've had a chance to review. The Examiner, we use the Examiner for special events like Easter, Mother's Day, Fish Fry. They also use the Yellow Pages too, not to the extent that we used to, same reason. Better areas, but still you got to have your name out there because people still do use the Yellow Pages occasionally. And then they adjust accordingly too when other promotions might come up, that type of thing. They try to take advantage of those things. And then there's also a list of the awards that they've won, especially related to wedding functions and that type of thing. And those are important to note too, because those reviews come from the brides themselves and the people themselves that have actually had their wedding at our golf course. So that's why that's so important. Staffing, any questions on that, or should I just go ahead and go through the whole thing?
Why don't you just go through the whole thing, and then we'll
can do
circle
that.
back.
All right, very good. Staffing-wise, as far as the golf program is concerned, golf program would consist of the golf shop and grounds maintenance, Kevin's area. There's 6 of us all together, myself, my assistant, Kevin, mechanic, and 2 foremen that are full-time. We've, as you can see, one of the things I thought was interesting when I look back is I really had no idea that, including the last 2 months where we didn't have any play at all because of the weather, we've only had 9 months since 2005 where we weren't open for play, where play was not registered. So, we had a nice run there, and we had a couple of runs there where we were open for 25 straight months and another one for 23 straight months for play. And there's been a few Januaries where I was out on the first tee for 4 or 5 hours getting people started because if we happen to hit a 60-degree day in January or that type of thing. So we're open actually more than you realize. You also realize sometimes how little snow we get here sometimes, especially when we try to do Special Olympics in the winter, and there's not enough snow and that type of thing. You kind of realize, well, even though this year's been bad, there's been better months. We're open. We keep regular hours in the golf shop. Always keep regular hours in the golf shop. Usually 4 to 5 days. A lot of times we've been open 6 and 7 in the wintertime, depending on what's going on, special occasions, and that type of thing. The golf shop, what we do in the golf shop is, we basically use the winter to plan the upcoming season, including looking at rates, tournaments, outings, special events, lesson programs, junior golf, high school golf, scheduling high school golf and practice and tournaments. We just completed the update of our point-of-sale system, which includes new tee time templates to reflect some of the changes we've made in our leagues and outing schedules and that type of thing. We also update our inventory at that point in the point-of-sale system, pricing and other things. That works out well. We do a lot of horse trading with our merchandise and that type of thing. We get the salespeople in the wintertime. They come in and get product that's out of date. We get credit, and we bring in new product that's more up to date and pertinent for what's going on. So we do spend a lot of time with salespeople. They do come in and promote their wares, whether it's soft goods, meaning clothing, that type of thing, hard goods, which is your clubs, bags, shoes, and that type of thing. So we spend a lot of time with our salespeople and our vendors. We do a lot of special ordering in the wintertime. People might have maybe traveled down south, had a chance to see some clubs, maybe hit some new clubs that come back up, and thankfully they order them through us because they're some of our better customers, that type of thing. And the phone does ring, and we're happy about that. If the phone wasn't ringing, that would be a major cause of concern, but the phone does ring. And we have taken numerous inquiries on outings, and we've booked a number of them. We've lost a couple permanent tea time people, but we've been able to add some permanent tea time people also. In league play, we were able to negotiate with our leagues and restructure them a little bit to better utilize our tea times. On the banquet side, they have 4 full-time employees, including a couple people in the kitchen and a couple people in the office. So we have 4 full-time people. Even though it's not prime time in the winter time, there's still many events going on. I believe there's 53 events, including groups and taste testings and those type of things. There's 53 events this winter. We had Bartlett High School out there, Special Olympics, holiday parties, birthday parties, weddings, and all else that goes on there. There's also a tremendous amount of people, because I'm there, I'm sitting in the main office. There's so many people that come in, announced and unannounced, looking at our facility, talking with our staff. We always have food and beverage staff there. They're there the most of anybody, because you never know when someone's going to come in, inquire about the facility, whether it be a wedding, function, a group function, or whatever. So they're there a lot in the wintertime, and they do, like golf, you book a lot of your season in the off season. Other things that they do, especially Paul, and again, I'm in there listening because it's interesting. He spends an awful lot of time negotiating prices with vendors of food and beverage. For food and beverage, prices are screaming through the roof right now on so many things, and he's out there pounding the pavement, negotiating prices, spending hours and hours on the phone with our vendors and that type of thing. They just last month have met, the main people have met in food and beverage, going through our menu, updating it, making some changes, that type of thing. The ordering of the supplies such as linens, flowers, things like that, they're out there negotiating those type of things, seeing what's out there. Can we do better? Have we done better? They've also had a couple of special nights like Girls' Night Out, Bridal Vendor Showcase, Craft Show. They go through the kitchen and clean. They do a fair amount of cleaning. And on a regular basis, just because we have special events, they're receiving food orders, processing invoices, and preparing the food for the events and that type of thing. And that's it. I mean, it's not as busy as June, July, but there's still certainly reason to be there and to be answering phone calls and talking to people and trying to book our events and our dates. And again, there's some attachments here, including golf fees, the last rate survey that we did, and also that type of thing. Now, if we go into Kevin's, I think it's on the back of Kevin's is on the back of right before the website advertising. But he has the 4 full-time people up there, as I mentioned, and if you look at that, you can see all that they do, and it's a full winter. If you just look at the inventory, equipment inventory, and all the things that they go through, and they go through every piece of inventory from top to bottom, and including the small equipment, including what he calls the golf course courtesy items, which would be your ball washers, your benches, your garbage cans, your tee markers, rehab, and all that. As far as their equipment is concerned, they're changing oil and filter, including the 76, or actually the 80 golf carts that we have. And I mean the 80 golf carts, I mean the beverage carts too, and the range carts, that type of thing. They adjust the brakes and on and on. It's an amazing thing what they do and what they get done. So that being said, I think that pretty much covers a lot of hopefully we responded to the questions that you had at the last meeting, and hopefully you maybe have a better understanding now of some of the things that go on out there and some of the things that we do.
Thank you for that information.
Yeah.
One of the things I appreciated about your memo is that you started off with rates, because I think rates touch on a very important point, that Bartlett Hills is an enterprise. During the mid-budget review, we talked about that. We talked about the notion that Bartlett Hills has the structural deficit. We need to get that under control because we're bleeding, and it's important to do that. So I was alarmed when I got the budget and I see that now we're projecting our ending cash balance is going to go from this budget year from $43,000 to $313,000. So that's an additional $269,000 that we're losing. So let me start with the rates. Who compiled that list of rates, and where did you get that information, and how recent is that? It's labeled 2013. Are the 2014 rates out there?
It was February and March of last year.
Okay.
And we get that information through calling directly to the golf courses and their websites.
Okay. And in your memo, you referenced that the rate numbers themselves don't give us a complete picture with what our competitors are doing. And I like that you use that word competitors, because we're going to have to compete in order to be able to close this gap. And I'm not comfortable with voting on a budget with this kind of gap in it. So can you explain to us what you mean by that?
Well, our industry is becoming to be dominated a little bit by third-party tee time providers, and basically what they do is they call you and ask you to participate with them, so that people make tee times through their site and their business. And basically what they're doing is they're asking us to discount our product for them to make money. That's what third-party tee times basically are. Whether it's Golf Now, Great Greens Fee. I had 2 calls today, as a matter of fact. People saying, hey, we can bring more rounds to you, we can do this, we can do that. Well,
have you considered increasing the rates?
we have, and we do every year, but it has been, if you looked at that survey, it's been a while since we've increased some of those rates. And that's just a reflection of how difficult our industry has been since about 2005 to go ahead and do that. We raised our rates pretty aggressively back in the early, between 2000 and 2005. We increased them pretty aggressively and got kind of high on some areas and that type of thing. And it's hard to get some of those rates now. It's hard to get it. We've always felt too recently that it's better for us to be positioned mid to slightly below average on our rates, because that makes us even a better value in the eyes of the people that are playing right now. And we are fighting those third-party tee time providers out there, which we lost a lot of play this fall. Not a lot, but we lost some play this fall because people were out there just $15, $18, $19 with a cart. And you can't survive on that.
Yeah, but how does our golf course comparatively, if we look at your prices here on the sheet that we're at now, current and proposed, we're coming in the bottom 1/3. Is that indicative of our golf course compared to these other golf courses? Are these other golf courses that much better?
It's not indicative of that at all, no, but it gives us an opportunity to get our rates without discounting. I mean, bottom line is, if we can get our rates and we get decent weather, we can have a good year. But if we have to sit out there and raise them just to discount them, my own personal opinion, I've been doing this for a long, long time. I believe that our industry is struggling right now because of the discounting nature of our business, and it's really it's putting people in the mindset that they don't need to pay the going rate.
Well,
no matter how nice a golf course it is, they don't have to pay the going rate.
Well, that's just welcome to the 21st century.
I
That's
know.
the way it is.
I know. I'm not saying that. Absolutely, you're absolutely right.
People
but,
come into my office saying the same thing. You know, they don't think they need to pay. You know, it's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Do these other golf courses above us here, do they discount prices?
Most of them do. If you're down in the Naperville area, not as much. They tend not to discount quite as much as maybe up in this area. But there are some that aggressively discount. There are some that don't discount a lot. I mean, it's hard to keep track of all that because that can change on a daily note. I mean, you could have a group out there, you could have a golf course out there discounting this week and not discounting the next week, and this and that. But you know, our clientele They tend to frequent golf courses that do a lot of discounting because of the area that we're in. And in this particular area, discounting is pretty prevalent. And it has a lot to do with just the area that you're in. It can have a lot to do with that.
I have personal experience with a couple of these courses. Used to have permanent tee times at Randall Oaks. I've played Oak Meadows many times, Maple Meadows.
Right.
I think our course is everywhere, every bit, probably better than Randall Oaks, and we're cheaper, quite a bit cheaper. I mean, if you charge an extra $3-4 a round, that's $100,000 to $150,000 a year at 36,000 rounds.
Problem.
You know, I'd hate to get into the discussion of trying to advise what we should be charging for rounds, but that could be a potential solution to some of the shortfall here. And I can't speak for every golfer, but when I look at a course, I don't think 38 and 42 there's a bit of difference when you go to play golf. I mean, that's the way I think of it.
I agree.
It doesn't make any sense to have a course that we have maintained so eloquently and propped up so well in the middle or below the middle of the pack compared to some of these other courses. But you can do the flip side of that too. I've been at Schaumburg, and there's a fantastic course. So that's tricky.
And sometimes I think you draw to the people that you're catering to. In other words, you discount your rates, you bring in people that are expecting discounted rates. And if you have rates that are higher and you're putting yourself out there like we're the next Medina, people are going to pay. I mean,
Jim, if we did the third party, what do they take?
What's that? What's their take?
Yeah, what's ours? It's 38 per round of golf. What do they end up paying?
Oh, the third party?
Yes.
Well, the one we're working with now is a straight $2,500 a year is what they get from us. Golf Now, which we did last year, I can't get a handle on it because you're bartering with them. You're giving them a tee time a day, and you don't know what they're selling it for. And that's, to me, a problem because those rates can get pretty darn low.
Well, they pay Golf Now, and then what check do you get for
They
that?
don't. They just come in and pay their greens fees to us.
Okay.
I don't get involved in cutting checks back and forth and that type of thing.
Do we have any dead times that no one golfs at 2 o'clock? Or
Well, there's certain dead times, certain times of the week, and that type of thing that are a little slower than others, certainly. And one of our things that we want to do this year is promote those times.
Yep.
You know, and get people,
on our website,
and get people out there.
$5 off on our own.
It's a lot cheaper to do it through our own website and through the golf shop than it is.
Have you thought about people who have not registered on our golf site, giving them the first time they register for a tee time $5 off? That way
That's something we could
build
do.
up a bigger base.
That's something we could promote, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
And Bob, if you're opposed to increasing the rates, then how would you propose to plug the gap? How do we solve the structural deficit then? Because not only are we talking about that, the ongoing deficit that we seem to be having, that we've talked about in the past, but now we've also discussed spending another $250,000 on enhancements to the clubhouse, the bar, the banquet hall, which I asked you about last time, and you said that was probably going to be a good investment, a good return on investment. But it's hard for me to sit here and approve an investment when we're still leaking out of the bottom of the bucket.
Well, first of all, any golf course has to rely on good weather or decent weather. That's number one. That's still the biggest influence on our business is the weather. Second of all, we're trying to make better use of our tee times, make people more accountable for our tee times. We're looking at $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 just by doing that. If we can get a handle on that, that's a sizable amount of money. This last year, weather-wise, you can't really refer back to last year. It was so bad. The worst year I can ever remember, weather-wise. The season started late. The season ended early. There was poorly timed rain weekends, things like that they just kill you. And then in the summertime, rains tend to be spotty and isolated. You could go through a month and just have a terrible month on the golf course 25 miles south. You might have had a great month, just because of where the storms went and that type of thing. So that's part of it. I'm just having we listen to our golfers, you know, they talk to us, they make comments, that type of thing. And for another year, I'm a little leery about raising the prices just because of what we heard last year. And, you know, we're getting squeezed. We're kind of a middle-class golf course. The middle class, I think, maybe is getting somewhat squeezed in our economy today. And I think that's a little bit of a reflection. You know, and at the same time, though, we have people that come in and say, you know, especially seniors, hey, we can play for $5 to $10 less somewhere else than we pay here, but we'd rather come here because of you guys and the facility and that type of thing. That's not the majority, but it's nice to hear that because they can, especially seniors, you know, during the week, they can play for $25, $26, $27, $28 worth of card all day long, all summer long, and we're at $39. So you know, when you look at these individual rates on the weekends, you know, we've been raising the weekend rates, and last year we raised the cart rates. We raised the 1 o'clock rate on the weekend. We raised our season passes last year. The year before that, we addressed some twilight rates and that type of thing. The one rate we haven't been able to raise is the weekday 18-hole rate. We're at $51, and we struggle to get that. So that's the one rate we haven't been able to address, but we have, you know, addressed some of the other rates over time. But it's a tough call. You know, you don't know. I mean, you could raise everything $1 or $2. You don't know how it's going to affect you. You don't know what the people are going to do or say, or are you going to have to, you know, start adjusting your rates as you go along?
Take a breath. I wanted to get back to how many, what's the percentage of resident golf to non-resident?
About 45%.
Okay. So for some, is that lopsided? Is that typical at all golf courses?
Yeah, I'd say it's probably pretty typical.
That the resident is always less?
Yes, I would say so.
Okay. I was just sitting here thinking, why aren't we getting more residents in and different marketing ideas that we might have, you know, to familiarize people with the whole facility, actually. Mm-hmm. You know, some kind of fun fair, you know, some kind of project. Right. I know we do a lot of stuff, but maybe it's not enough. I also wanted to ask you, in this, because I can't find it. It doesn't mean it's not there. Do you set goals with your staff? I mean, do you want to, and are goals, setting goals, is that appropriate for your staff? We're still in a sales, we're still sales oriented here. It's a sale culture. Do we set any goals for their staff?
We have 35 bullet points right here on this piece of paper for when the staff.
I can't read it.
I know you can't, but I'm just saying. There's 35 bullet points on there that came out of a internal staff strategic planning session that we put together about a month and a half ago.
Okay, so
to get our main staff organized, focused, and all of us working on toward the same goals and that type of thing, same type of goals that we can, reemphasize with our seasonal staff and that type of thing. Yeah, so there's a lot of good stuff, on here and many of them we've already started working on. Some we've accomplished.
Is that a new practice, Bob?
It actually was. You know, we always do the village strategic plan, but internally we hadn't done one, and I thought, you know, because of the issues that you people are bringing up right now, that type of thing, we thought it might be a really good opportunity to get the staff together this winter and talk about all the different phases of our operation. We didn't leave anybody out. I mean, we were all targeted and got good input. Golf got good input from food and beverage. Food and beverage got good input from golf. Grounds maintenance got good input from golf and that type of thing. It was a really good session that a lot of good stuff came out of.
Do you have any type of a mechanism to hold those people accountable to those goals?
Well, I mean, we'll certainly track everything that we're doing.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll be tracking it.
It'd be interesting if you could share those with us. Does St. Andrews not have a non-resident rate?
I don't believe they do.
Because they're just $48 flat across the
That's
board.
correct. That's correct. Yeah, they're not tied into any park district or municipality, so no, they would just have the
Yeah.
one rate.
Yeah, it seems that that would, for me anyway, it seems that'd be our number one competitor.
That would be better.
Proximity-wise, yeah.
Villa.
No, Villa. I think, wouldn't you say St. Andrews is probably our number one competitor?
They're one of them. I think places like Randall Oaks, Poplar Creek,
Those are a lot farther away, though.
Schaumburg, places like that. That's where our people travel.
Okay.
You know, that's a lot of the places that they go to and play.
Well, you know, we've talked about how there's a culture kind of at the golf course, which I think everybody likes, but that comes at a price, and I think some of the things that the board would like to see considered is actually stepping it up and saying, okay, if this is what we're offering, either the price has got to increase, and we've got to start breaking even, or the amenities have got to decrease. And, I mean, it really isn't that difficult, right? The price has either got to increase, or the amenities have got to decrease. That's how a business is ran. And I've enjoyed the course for years, and I think and I've been to a lot of different courses, and there is for a municipal course, it's the best one I've been at.
Well, yeah.
I've been in every part of that course. And I notice you have a lot of sand rakes, too, from his report, and I've used about half of those. There's at least 100 sand rakes out there.
Well, I'd like to, if I might, having heard several of the trustees concerned about rates, ask Bob, if we were to look at landing somewhere a little closer to the middle, you know, we're down from the middle now, what's the potential downside in terms of loss of golfers? Can you quantify that?
No.
And give me a sense.
Well, again, you look at the economy, you look at the industry, you look at the spendable income that people have that frequent our golf course. You might lose. You might lose some. You might get. It's hard. It's hard to know.
Yeah,
it's really hard to know.
Yeah,
you know, and those that are higher, as an example, there's a $75 golf course. I'm not going to name it. There's a $75 golf course out there that some of our people are going to play on a regular basis this year on Tuesdays because they're offering them $39 with a cart. Those are the things that we're dealing that are sitting out there that make it so difficult to create a rate structure and feel comfortable with it.
I've got a question, if I could ask you, Bob. This from a marketing standpoint, we're talking about discounts and stuff, but we're actually, I understand your desire to get more golfers golfing. And have we ever considered offering an entire round of golf free to residents in the village that, you know, whoever they may be, they pay their water bill or whatever, or in the Bartlett or however we would do that, but we'd actually give one round of golf free to entice people to golf, to build awareness of the golf course. You know, yes, you're going to give something away. However,
They might come back.
it might come back. And it's certainly a bigger discount than $5 or 5% or whatever. But, you know, if people become aware of it and they have the opportunity to golf, they might come back. So that's my first comment here. Second one I'm curious about is the Yellow Pages. You know, I've found through my own office that the Yellow Pages is pretty much of a dinosaur. So I'd kind of like to know how much we're paying and what kind of size ad we have in the Yellow Pages, and
Hey, we have a line.
a line.
A line for golf, and I think food and beverage might do just a little bit more. I think I pay $200 something a month is all, and I think, Paul, what do you? Yeah, we're each around $200 a month is all we're at. We used to be way up there.
Right.
We used to be up there $500-600 a month, that type of thing. But just getting, we're basically just kind of focusing on areas close to us here in the surrounding communities where a majority of our play comes from.
If I may sneak in here for a minute, take a breath.
Yep.
If I heard you right, you're charging $51 during the week, the daily rate.
Non-resident daily rate.
Okay.
Weekend.
Is there a senior discount during the day?
A senior rate is $39 with a card.
Okay, so we're already giving a discount during the week. We're trying to get
For
people to come out
seniors.
during the week.
For seniors and juniors.
Okay. Second question, if I go into the pro shop and I want to buy a set of clubs, and I pull out an American Express card, do we charge a surcharge for using the credit card?
No, we don't.
Last year, we spent $24,000 in merchant fees.
Yes.
You were expected to spend 25. American Express is probably the highest merchant fee. We take Discover too?
It's the least used card, though, American Express. Yeah, it is. Yeah, we have Discover, American Express, Visa, and MasterCard.
Maybe it's time to start charging a surcharge for that. That's a little income.
We could look at it.
See, that was easy.
Bob, are
I'm
you,
not sure the legality of it, but I would have to.
I do it.
Bob, on your chairs, it says some of them are 2 and some of them are 17 years old.
Yeah,
How many of the ones that are 2 years old do you have?
not many. About 10.
Do you have any that are 5 that are still?
The problem that we're having with the chairs is that they're mismatched.
Right. What I'm asking is, we have 50 or 100 that are 5 years or 2 years old. Why don't we just buy more of that type and not spend $25,000? I understand they're mismatched. You want to get one kind, but I can't believe that a 2-year-old chair is still not functionable.
Well, it has to do more with the presentation of the room, is what it has to do with.
So not everybody covers them at the wedding.
Yeah, and then if our chairs are good and matched and that type of thing, we could then charge additional for chair covers, those type of things, and increase revenues that way, as opposed to including them in a package that we do now. Because of the condition of our chairs, we can make chair covers an additional commodity and that type of thing. And also for presentation, when the room's set up, all the chairs look alike. It makes it a huge impression. I understand where you're coming from on that. You know, even the material of the chairs is hard to match. You can't even match materials, let alone colors and that type of thing. It's really difficult. But we've tried over the years to reduce the costs involved in chairs, but just not sure now with all the other upgrades that we've done, it just makes it look a little bit worse.
So are we done with our conversation regarding rates? We want to move on to advertising? We've already kind of touched on advertising. I had a question about the website. The village administrator probably shared with you some of the things I saw, some issues with the website being a little bit unkept and maybe not as competitive as we should be. And you say that the website's going to be redesigned. Is that part of the village's? No. So this is a separate item, a separate
No,
expense.
that's correct. Yeah, we did make those changes that were brought to our attention, and we did do the updating on the website. Our provider every couple of years provides a no-charge update to take advantage of their increased and improved technology, along with just a facelift of the website itself. So we're taking advantage of that at this point. We started that a few months back, and they're going to be getting us kind of going through a trial run with us here in another month, the way it looks right now.
And I think my next question kind of dovetails with Dr. Kammerer's point about the yellow pages, which I used to have a lot of bankruptcy clients come in who'd spent $70,000 on yellow pages, because it was a bad investment. But we advertise in a number of different places. Do we track, other than the Google Analytics, how effective that advertising really is? When a bride calls us up and wants to make an appointment to see the facility, do we track where she heard about us?
I believe that what they do is I know in many cases, talking to staff, that they do ask where they heard about us.
Okay.
They do ask that on a regular basis, especially people they haven't, especially new people, new to the facility and that type of thing. I know that they generally ask where they saw our name or what brought them, what enticed them to come to check out Bartlett Hills.
And then do you use that information to prioritize where you put your budget?
Yes, they do.
Advertising budget?
Yes, they do.
Questions about staffing?
I I just, I think it's a general, or I should say that, I think it's, in my opinion, this is a hard thing to tackle for any municipality as a golf course. I mean, it's especially in this economy when we are answering to our wives and our residents about taxes and everything else, our husbands. It's so, like I said in the last meeting, something's kind of got to give here. We've got to figure out a way to get this thing in the black, no matter what it takes. And I find a hard time believing that this budget for this portion of it would get passed until we figure that out. So whether it's figuring out an increase in rates or a decrease here or wherever, I think it's been well played out that the course could use a facelift and some of the things could potentially increase sales. And I agree with that. I think that you could increase banquet sales. There's always a certain number of weddings that happen every year, and it made a lot of sense if you can't fit 250 in a wedding, that's your highest dollar weddings. And it's certainly the right location for it. It's beautiful out there. But I think we need some tweaking on this, would be my opinion, to try to figure out how to make sure that we aren't continually refunding that with taxpayer dollars. That's my opinion.
Sell the name. Canadian Rail Golf Course.
Yeah, can we brand it?
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. I'm not at all comfortable with passing this if we're this short. So is that it for golf? You want to move on to the next department? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Bob.
I think we'll do community development next.
Good evening, everyone. The community development budget is staying the same. We have no increase for this fiscal year. The Community Development Department is responsible for planning, zoning, economic development, the GIS mapping, addressing, recording of plats, processing the FOIA requests, various permits for residential, commercial, industrial property maintenance enforcement, maintaining the foreclosure database, and various other issues regarding commercial, residential, industrial projects, rezoning, site plans, comprehensive planning, bike path planning, marketing. We work with the chamber on various matters. We also staff the village's Economic Development Commission, Plan Commission, and Zoning Board of Appeals, and work with the developers on the Brewster Creek Business Park, the Blue Heron, TIF, and the Route 59 and Lake Street tax increment financing districts. Some of the projects that we went over with relation to the strategic plan last year, reviewing the new Walgreens that is being constructed at 59 and Stearns, the new Dunkin' Donuts on Lake Street that was an adaptive reuse of the Burger King, and the new Tokyo Steakhouse site and building plans, working with the building department and the fire department on getting that project going. We continue to work with the corridor on the west part of the road project. We most noticeably recently was finishing the streetscape project with the landscaping, the street lights, and the baskets and banners going out to Route 59. The Economic Development Coordinator worked with 14 new businesses to locate in the retail shopping centers throughout the village, including the Bartlett Candy House, Sherwin-Williams, Golden Bowl, Artspoken, Dunkin' Donuts, the Mexican Grill, Emily's Mexican Grill, the Academy for Kids, Smile for Dental Center, Siri, Indian Grocery, Mathnasium, Thai Seasons, Total Vision, S&A Chiropractic, JDN Heating and Air Conditioning, and they've all have obtained occupancy permits after visiting the Economic Development Coordinator and going through site location in the village. We also inventory, the update the commercial and site inventory space, and it's been sent over to 50 people who have been interested in locating in the various locations in the village. Numerous contacts to fill the Nest Cafe, which resulted in Tokyo Steakhouse being opened just recently. Reviewed Rhino Dock site plan, worked with Auto Truck and Choose DuPage for an open house in the Brewster Creek Business Park, completed our Chapter 4 of the zoning ordinance. Cheese Merchants, which is renovating a 270,000 square feet facility in the village, and worked with Orleans Home to purchase the Enclave, which is now under construction. And we started the online Freedom of Information web-based system or email-based system, which we get over 800 requests between the village and the police department. It's working well. And the Discover Bartlett Facebook page has also been open, and we've got 2,200 likes, 2,100 likes. Our staffing is going to remain the same. We have 9 staff. We'll continue with that. As you can see on the proposed request for 1 GIS technician, our GIS department is a person of 1. She works with all the village departments, the police, Public Works, and we have, she does all the mapping for that. We have a engineering technician in Public Works that does some of the day-to-day street and sewer and water line locations, but Christie does most of the maps. That position was not funded. We also had the workstation and required software for that position, which was not funded. In terms of professional development, we pretty much proposed the training for the planning staff and the EDC. Those items were not funded. Those are out-of-state training programs, so they won't go to those. We'll continue to do the in-state air show, ICSC, and Chicago Industrial Property local trade shows. We pay for that out of the TIF. We'll continue to do local APA webinars, code enforcement chapter meetings, and locally based stuff for the code officers and the planning staff, as well as the GIS person going to her in-state conference. Our professional association budget is the same for Planning American Institute of Certified Planners, the Tax Increment Association, which we're members, the Code Officers Association, the Development Council, International Council of Shopping Centers, the IEDC Council, and the GIS system. We'll continue to maintain those professional associations. As I said, the budget is the same. It's a 0% increase. We did increase some of the line items regarding additional repairs to the older vehicles, as we are not going to purchase any new vehicles. We also maintained our contingency fund for emergency board up of vacant buildings when we get into those systems, and continued online use of our government web-based or email-based FOIA system agreement, which is about $4,000. And that's pretty much the budget. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
First one that comes to mind, we have a contingency for emergency board up.
Yes.
Do we recoup that in any way? We don't flip it
If
on
we
the house?
lien the property, we will get it. Most of the time, when the board-up situations occur, they tend to be a house that has, they could be vacant, they could be a foreclosure, but we have had situations where we've had to work with the police and fire department. House needs to be broken into for a reason because of some incident, and we've paid for the board up. If we do additional fees on that, we will lien the property, or sometimes in a case last year, the resident, because of the situation, just paid us and reimbursed us. But we try to recoup it through a lien or getting a direct payment from either the bank or whoever is the occupant.
Is there more expenses to try to put that lien on there?
The lien is a last resort type of thing, and that's usually a situation where we have occasionally have run into hoarder houses, and the person who lives in that house doesn't have the wherewithal to pay for the cleanup. It's a public health and safety issue, so we work and get that cleaned up. And in that cleanup, sometimes we use that board up money, and then we have to do a lien. And our village prosecutor handles placing the lien on it. Last year, we recouped $12,000 on a lien.
Thank you.
Jim, don't we get some kind of a fee from the entity that's foreclosing?
Registration fee or something? Right?
That's when it's a vacant building, and then it's a we get a vacant building registry fee. That's when there are foreclosures that are not vacant yet. So in the database for foreclosures, we're maintaining contact with the occupant or with the bank that's going through the foreclosure to keep it clean and maintained. When it's determined that it's vacant, our inspectors turn it over to the building department, and then they put it on the vacant building registry. They collect the fee, and then they do a detailed inspection, and there's insurance requirements and those types of things.
But isn't there a fee that the village receives, even in a deed in lieu of foreclosure on a short sale or things like that, where it's transferring? I thought that there was a new thing that was enacted last year where we got some type of a fee from the bank that's holding the note or the individual that's holding the note when that title transfers.
Well, the transfer tax we get when
But I
it's
thought it was
sold.
above and beyond the transfer tax.
Are you talking?
I think it's the vacant building registry.
Might have been.
Yeah, it's the vacant building registry. That's where we get the fee.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
And
if
much
we have
is
to
it?
go and mow the lawn, then we charge that back.
Well,
to
that's,
them.
if we have to mow the lawn, then we get, again, we lien the property or ask the entity that has control of that title to reimburse us. A lot of times in those situations, they just pay up.
And then the other question I have, I think we spoke a little bit about strategic planning, is kind of increasing our ability to market and advertise to drive in new business. And I see that there's a relatively large increase in our advertising budget there, which is something that we spoke about at the planning meeting.
Yes.
And I'm hoping that we're going to get some feedback on, what we're going to use that for as far as videos and getting out there and plans to draw businesses into Bartlett in any way, shape, or form that we can, and kind of the new social media type of a drive.
Yes, we did, I'm sorry, we did increase it to cover those extra marketing costs. Any other questions?
Doesn't look like any. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Jim.
Next, I think we'll have Public Works.
Do we need a break before Public Works?
Don't wait too long, Paul's going to retire.
Carry on.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll start out with the street department. Public Works is made up of three different divisions: the water, wastewater, street department. Street department is currently, we have roughly 141 center lane miles of roads. Take care of everything between parkway or public sidewalk, parkway trees, curbs, gutters, storm sewers, water mains, storm sewers, sanitary sewers, everything that lies in that. One of the big issues that we're doing in the street department, obviously, was this winter. This winter really took a toll. We've had record snowfalls this winter, record use of salt, record use of liquid brine that we're doing. Hopefully, we're over that past. We're in the spring. We can move right into emerald ash borer tree removal, the second largest issue that we're dealing with at this point. Last year, as far as our brush, well, this winter, we'll go back into this winter. This winter was a record snowfall, 70-plus inches of snow that we dealt with. It really expanded out. We started out with all of our salt storage just completely plumb full last year, or this season. We cut our budget and our salt consumption down drastically. This current year, we used everything that we had in our storage, plus what we ordered this year from the state. We could handle a couple more snow occurrences yet this year, but otherwise, we are starting out next year with zero salt on the ground. So what I'm trying to prepare you for is the drastic increase in salt purchase for next year.
Nice legacy.
I'm sorry?
Nice legacy.
Well, I won't tell you. That, again, with our snowplow contractors. Our snowplow contractors, we usually budget about $100,000 on an annual basis for that. We see a drastic increase in this for future years. Trend we've seen it in prior years. When you have one bad snow season, you'll have two of them back to back. I'm sorry to tell you the bad stories again. So we have to prepare for the worst for next year. I'm looking at probably having another snow occurrence next year, just like what we had this current year. So we're boosting up our budget in the salt operations for next year's snow removal and our salt operations in that. Along with that is our emerald ash borer program. We're into our second year of the emerald ash borer program, tree removal and tree reforesting. Last year, we took down by contractors right around 700 trees, roughly 400 in-house. This next year, I plan on doing at least 1,000 to 1,200 this fiscal year, with reforesting, trying to get close to 1,000 trees replanted yet this year. Followed up next year being the same thing, the calendar year of 2015 the same, and then have all of our trees removed into 3 years. Planting will continue into the 4th year following up with that. So every tree that we will take down, there will be a tree planted there if the residents participate in purchasing or the village funds a tree 100%. Every ash tree that we're taking down, there will be some type of a tree in the close proximity planted in that. Some of the other things, hopefully we can get some positive things out of the street department. We are turning around. This is our 3rd year of the road bond. You folks just approved that road bond bid for this year. Once we get done with it this year, we will have completed 72 plus miles of roads in the past 3 years. We have originally when we started out with this program, we anticipated 40 to 45 miles. The prices just came in so great that we were able to expand that with the same amount of money. We extended that, and we did accomplish the 72 miles of roads. That will set the town great for future into our road replacement or road resurfacing programs. Some of the other items that we're doing in our street department, we are continually to look at the LED street light modifications. We have tried some LED lighting and some of our overhead lighting. We've found some fixtures that can accommodate our needs, multiple wattage on that. We can adjust the wattage on that. What we're doing is we're purchasing all of our street lights, or the street lights moving forward will be the LED. Replacement fixtures will be replacement fixtures. I don't propose doing the whole entire town. It's very expensive to do the whole entire town for your cost payback, but as a fixture is replaced or any new fixtures that will be put in would be continue to be the LED lighting.
How often do those fixtures go out?
Some of our fixtures are 20, 25 years old, so it's
could be
not
a long
a quick
time before we
turnaround
had
on
out
that, right?
LED.
But if we need to go out and re-lamp or re-lens an area of some of those older areas, at that time we would move forward and complete that lighting or re-lamping, re-fixturing of that certain particular area.
If we were to do it all at once, what's the time frame for a break even? I mean, it's $190,000 a year now for utilities, what's the break even on, I know, I think we had asked, or I'd asked those numbers because something came across my desk advertising the LED systems.
All the grants that are out there for the LED lighting is strictly for the energy cost. It's not for the cost of the fixtures.
Okay.
To relamp the whole entire town, it would be multi-millions, about $3.5 million to relamp the whole entire town. It would probably take you, 10, 15 years to get any type of a payback on those, if it would be that
And then you'd be
quick.
refixturing again.
Right. So I think by changing them out as they go, new developments will go with the LED lights.
But we do save one at a time when we do the LED fixture. And,
That is
yeah.
correct. Right.
Good.
Yep.
Okay.
We also have really instituted the liquid brine solution for salt removal, try and reduce the consumption of salt. This was a very difficult year to try and give us any type of measurements with the amount of salt, but we'll continue to increase the amount of liquid de-icer, and the goal would be to eliminate the amount of salt, reduce the consumption of salt. We should be able to eventually use about a third less of the amount of salt just by using the liquid de-icers on that. We also do continue to participate in the Illinois Public Works Mutual Aid. One of our employees is on the board. Keith Watson is on the board for that, participates in the meetings on a monthly basis. Mutual aids, this is statewide. It has worked out quite well. When we had the tornadoes down in Washington, Washington was not part of the mutual aid. They did sign on immediately right after that, and the state of Illinois mutual aid was able to give them some support on that. We did not send anybody from our staff, but we did give them support on the phone. Our employee did work with those folks also.
And the building department did as well.
Right, and the building department also did, yes. Moving on to our measurements, we are not asking for any additional employees in the street department. Our work orders are tree trimming is obviously our tree trimming, tree takedown is going to stay about the same. We'll continue to do a lot more tree takedown with contractual services, and that's all related to the emerald ash borer. As far as the equipment purchasing, we're asking item number 1 is a new brush chipper. That is just rotating our fleet of 3 chippers. They are definitely getting their use with the emerald ash borer. This is a 2004 piece of equipment that we would be replacing. It's a 10-year-old wood chipper. It's well lasted its expectation of life. The bucket truck with a 55-foot reach on it, this would also additionally allow us to help with the tree takedowns and tree trimming. We have asked for this prior to. It has been dumped out of that. Right now we are sharing the same bucket truck for street lights and also for tree trimming. As our aging of our lights, we're out there working on the lights. Residents really like those lights. If there's a street light out, they want that fixed quite quickly. With us using it on tree trimming, we're not able to replace or address the street lights as quick as what we could. With this other equipment, we would have one vehicle strictly for the street lights, be able to jump on those a lot quicker. The bigger bucket truck would allow us to get up to the larger trees and help with the hanger branches as they're falling, as the ash trees are falling.
Those 2 vehicles are also provided for in the Vehicle Replacement Fund. I think both of them, they were due to be replaced last year in the Vehicle Replacement Fund, but we analyzed it even if it's in the fund and had actually cut the bucket truck last year again. But this year it's up, and the funds for that have been set aside.
On the bucket truck, the subcontractors that are taking the trees down also, do they leave the bigger ones to us, or how's that work?
What we've done in the past is the smaller trees we are doing in-house, the larger trees we are contracting out right at this current. Right at the current.
So if you had this new bucket truck, we're typically going to have all the emerald ash borers taken care of, the big ones as well, correct? I mean, by the outside outsourcing?
Correct.
So how much of a need do we really have for a $175,000 truck?
Only a third of our trees are ash trees in town, so we have 2/3 of the rest of the trees in town to still maintain, and they still need to be trimmed throughout.
But we've been making
Throughout
do
town.
pretty good with the existing truck previously, right?
As the trees get larger, we will need to, number one, contractual service all of the tree trimming, all of the tree work out, or we'll have to buy the equipment that we can maintain our own trees.
Well, and that was kind of the point I'm getting at, is last year when I brought this up, I kind of, in my being naive, I suppose, I said, why don't we just do it ourselves? And I was given the feedback that it would be too expensive for us to do it ourselves. We'd need a new bucket truck, and we'd need a stump grinder, and we'd need all this. We'd need to hire employees, and it's just cheaper to hire people outside to do it, and than it is to have the public works do it. But now I see we're looking at a $175,000 truck. So I kind of wonder about the expense of that. Is it not cheaper just to have outside services do some of these things that we might have to have done with a $175,000 truck?
We can contract it out, but again, just because we have a contractual service that's removing the current trees in town, we are addressing the ash trees with the contractual services. We still have all of our other trees to maintain throughout the town. If we turn around and want a contractual service all of our tree trimming, we can go ahead and do that. And that is certain equipment that you wouldn't have to purchase this if you want to 100% contract that out. To turn around and do that, you'll have to bid that out on an annual basis. Just the tree trimming or maintaining that, you'll have somebody on emergency call. You'll probably have to pay someone just to be stand by to be on call at this point. I can't predict when we're going to get a tree snap off at the top of it. We still have our own trees to maintain. It is nice to be able to have our own equipment to maintain the trees, that we can do it a lot quicker and a lot timely manner than what we can do with contractual services. So if you have a top of a tree or a windstorm come through, we cannot get up in there. And if we don't have somebody on a retainer, of a contractor on a retainer, we're just a phone call away, and we're just another client of theirs out there, and we might get to it in 2 to 3 days. We might have to block off an area of a street, barricade that off if it's an unsafe condition. If we had our own equipment, we could go out there and address that hangar right then and there and get that condition opened up and be a lot safer and a lot quicker of a time. But to turn around and buy all the equipment and all the staff to turn around and take down all the emerald ash trees in town, that's a completely different category. When you're talking about taking down thousands of trees in-house of that size of a tree, yes, you would have to have much, much more equipment and a lot more staffing to accommodate that. When these crews are coming in, these crews are coming in with a crew of 10 or 12 people on a daily basis, and blocking off a street and taking down that equipment. I wouldn't. I don't know where you could. It would be very difficult to hire people, get them trained to get that done in that timely of a manner.
This is a replacement, so we were going to replace another truck anyways?
This is a replacement on that. The other truck is such of an old vintage, there's very little value for a replacement or a trade-in on that. I would recommend keeping that old other truck, just use that just for the lights.
For the lights. Okay. So it was going to be scheduled to be replaced anyways?
Yes.
Thank you.
Paul, maybe we have a typo on this, or I'm just not looking at this correctly. But I'm looking at all these items and I'm adding them up, and the total on the bottom of your sheet here for street operating purchases is $107,000. If you add up everything on that sheet, excluding the items not funded, you're at $400,500. Is that just a typo in our form here?
No, that's the dollar amount that comes out of the street department. In the
I
replacement...
knew you'd have a good answer.
Yeah, in the replacement fund, which is a different fund, you'd see that total. So that's why you have that difference there.
Okay, so we're spending $400,500.
It's, yeah, a portion that's coming out of the vehicle replacement fund,
So-
but $107,000 is coming out of streets.
Okay, so is it fair to say then all but $107,000 was budgeted prior sitting in a fund?
Yes,
And $107,000 is coming from where?
the streets department,
The streets,
right,
that's also sitting in a fund or
in the general fund.
general fund? Okay.
The 107 was still proposed before it was cut, before the cuts also. Right. Moving on, item number 3 is a 2.5-ton dump truck. That is a replacement of a older truck. What we do with these larger trucks, we try and replace these trucks on an every 10-year basis, 7 to 10-year basis. Because there were so many years in there that we did not turn around and replace vehicles, we're starting to get some of the newer trucks, replacing them. Some of the older trucks we are able to keep. We're just taking the worst of the worst out of this one. So this is just a vehicle replacement of one of the larger trucks. Item 4 and 5 were not funded. Item 6 is a tree root grinder. This is a tree root grinder, a very small root grinder, not a tree stumper. It is a small hand root grinder. For our sidewalk replacements, we found out that we are running into so many trees that some of the shallower tree roots are growing, heaving the sidewalks. What we're doing under our sidewalk replacement program, we're going in there, pruning those roots and cutting those roots out, replacing the sidewalk, eliminating the roots that are causing the damage under the sidewalks, and then putting the sidewalks back at the level condition. This would strictly just be for the roots to dress up for the sidewalk areas that we're doing that. It's a very small root grinder. It's a very, very small stump grinder, not accommodating any type of a large stumper whatsoever.
Which brings up an interesting question. I mean, if we're going to have a $175,000 bucket truck to take down big trees, why doesn't the village have a stump grinder?
Because for the simple reason is, instead of spending $100,000 for a stump grinder, I can have a contractor come in for $50 per stump and cut out a stump. I have to go back and clean that up, but for that, it's a lot cheaper to have a contractor come in, stump that, and I'll go back and clean up the material after that.
Okay.
And this isn't budget related, but I could probably send you a few go requests where you could get some use out of that tree root grinder on a few of my jogs recently, Paul. I'll send you a few go requests and you can see how it works. I'm jumping over some sidewalks that are uprooted.
Right. Items 7 and 8 are, 7 is a phone system upgrade at Public Works facility, and the item number 8 is a fiber optic cable that will tie in our Public Works Administration building to our garage, to our wastewater treatment plant, so that we can have data going between, computers going between all those facilities and our phone service. Right now, our phone, the computers are tied in via a wireless antenna on one building going down to the other one. It's just not, it doesn't work the best. Both of those facilities, the garage and the wastewater treatment plant, have their own phone lines, phone numbers, not an extension of our main office. If we would put the fiber optic with the phone upgrade, it would be able to be an extension out at those facilities down there. Better communications to serve our residents on both locations, on both items. The item 9 is a street striper for striping our crosswalks, some of our smaller streets. We just, for our pavement marking, for our parking lots, the Village Hall, we do our commuter parking lots as needed, all of our parking lots. We help out with the golf course. We do the golf course parking lot when it needs to be restriped on that. It's just the old one that we have is getting wore out. And the last two items, 10 and 11, they were both unfunded out of this budget. The professional development in street department, item number 1 has been taken out. We're not traveling outside of the state of Illinois. All of the other training are all training locally, similar to what we've seen every year. So they're just local day trips. Professional associations, I do not believe there's any changes. Those are the same that we've had from year after year. Maybe a slight increase in cost, but nothing drastic on that. On your line item, again, it will show the snowplow contractors are the big change difference. Snowplow contractors and also the salt storage, or salt purchase, road salt purchase. I do believe those are the two large ones. Also, with our tree purchase is a drastic increase also, but that's related to the emerald ash borer. That is for the street department. Any questions with the street department?
I understand that we have a new arborist starting in the village.
Yes, we do.
Is that accurate? When is he or she starting, or when did they start?
She started yesterday. Monday was her first day, so she's getting acquainted with the area. She's already looking at getting herself acquainted with the emerald ash borer, following up with the contract from last year. We have about 30 trees still left under last year's contract to finish that up. We had to suspend that due to the winter. There's a few stumps in that area also. I think we have about 70 stumps the contractor has to come to do. Getting acquainted with that, working on the bid for next year's tree removal, and also working on, right now she's working on the new tree planting program for this current year.
Beyond the EAB, does she have enough to keep her busy?
Most
I mean,
definitely.
it just seems like, maybe you could tell me a little bit more about what the village arborist does for us.
The arborist, not let alone right now, the emerald ash borer, the tree replacement program that she'll be doing, working on that. We also have about 1,000 of our trees that were emerald ash borer that we're trying to treat on an annual basis. She has a pesticides license, so she will be continuing to add that treatment on those trees, evaluating the conditions, see what that is doing. Also, we have all of our cycle trimming throughout the rest of our community with all of the other trees. So she'll be scheduling our own staff or also contractual services for tree trimming, see how we go into that. So we have those other tree trimming, what we'll have to do to that. She's also working with the community development, the code enforcement on residential issues with trees. She'll be dealing with that. We do also have our new permit program that we're going to be adopting through our building department, having all of our tree service companies, tree replacement companies being licensed in town, so she'll be monitoring that program. With our tree preservation areas staggered throughout town, as residents call in and say, we have an issue in our tree preservation area, she'll be continuing to work with that also. Not let alone doing all that, we're also working to get that all mapped underneath our GIS system also.
Okay, thank you.
The extra 125 for salt, that will top us off?
That will give us the amount that will purchase the amount that we customarily buy on a yearly basis, about 3,600 ton.
Do we have any extra land anywhere where we can stockpile some of this for the next blast so we can sell it at a premium?
Play the salt market?
It's a commodity some days.
Salt storage is there's special precautions for storage of salt with water runoff and everything else, but point well taken.
I talked to a few mayors that were using sand toward the end.
And that is a mess.
Sand,
mess.
we did use that quite a few years ago when the waterways did freeze. We were not able to get salt. We did mix sand in with that. It gets very, very messy. It gets into our storm sewers, our sanitary sewers, even our water valves and our fire hydrants. You're still dealing with that. So you might use it 1 year, but it's a long effect problematic down the road.
Water? Okay. Moving on to our water department. Currently we have 7 of our own wells, 5 elevated storage towers, 2 ground storage towers. We pump right around 3.25 million gallons on a daily basis. We purchase about 2 million gallons, comes from Elgin. We have 292 miles of water mains, 2,280 fire hydrants, and 2,290 isolation valves. Have a little over 1,300 service accounts throughout our community. We're reading all of our own water meters in town with our new system. We are reading them on a monthly basis, billing them on a monthly basis. We should not get any more estimated bills throughout that. We do maintain our fire hydrants, our B-box, the water main valves, buildings, grounds, and we do all of our water sampling, pick up all of our sampling on a monthly basis, and they are taken all to a certified lab for test results on that. Our contractual services are up this next coming year. We need a media exchange at one of our barium and radium systems, well number 7. That will have to be done this year. We also have, the EPA has come out with a new lead-free law that all of our water valves going to a service to our homes, any replacement valves or new installations, your B-boxes, your roundways are lead-free. This put a big impact on it. We do stock quite a few of those parts. After January of January of 2014, you can no longer use those products whatsoever. So anything that we had on the shelf is now scrap. We're going to be building up the inventory, couple different sizes, a couple different products of each one on of our shelves. The availability to get those products is pretty close in town here. We should be able to find those at suppliers. There's one in St. Charles, one in Elk Grove Village. So we're not going to be stocking a lot. We're going to keep our inventory down. But again, the cost is drastically high. We're taking something out of a brass product, and it seems like they charge us more. It's a little bit like our no-lead gas. They take something out, and it costs more. So it is reflected in the budget here for an increase on that.
How much stock is useless now, dollar-wise? Like, what do we have to get rid of?
It's less than $500 in scrap, so it's not a big dollar amount. But we knew that this was coming down, so we did deplete the stock without revamping that up. So we'll be able to manage that. We also continue to try and enhance our buildings throughout town. We are planning a new roof, new gutters, downspouts at our Kent Circle Water Tower well site. We are doing some water main replacement, San Diego and some on North Hickory. We want to get both of those done this spring before the road projects are coming in. Other highlights that have been completed, our telemetry system has been completed through our water system and our wastewater. That is our monitoring system for all of our lift stations, all of our plants, all of our wells. That has been completed. We're working, it's working quite well on that. Some of the highlights we did have with the cold weather, we experienced
a few more main breaks than normal this year. I think we're up to 13th since January 1st. It's about double than what we've had normally. The cold weather really takes a toll on our mains also. The frost this year, we did see about 4 foot of frost in the pavement and the water main underneath that. And our water mains are roughly 5 to 5.5 feet deep. And main breaks are occurring when there's drastic change in temperatures. The frost gets down that low, the ground actually shifts in breaking the water mains on that. It's just, part of the nature. When we're seeing a drastic increase in temperature or change in increase, decrease, or increase in temperatures, that's when you'll see your main breaks happen. So we had quite a few this year, and we'll continue to deal with that. As far as our equipment, we have an old phone line system out at Villa Olivia, water tower running down to our pumping station just on the west side of the cemetery on Route 20. We're having difficulty with that phone system in there. We are proposing to go with a wireless type of communication between those it's monitoring our elevation in our towers, turning our pumps on, and that's our main controls between the two of them. The item number 2 is a electrical control panel for booster pump number 2 at Stearns Road. We did replace number 1 last year. It is the original equipment when it was built 30 years ago. It's just all the starters and all the switch gears in there are just really starting to show some wear and tear on that. Unable to find replacement parts anymore. Typically, we try and keep a control panel going as long as possible until we can no longer get replacement parts or somebody can't manufacture them. Then it will be time. It's time to replace that. And after 30 years, we can't find any more of the parts on that. Item number 3 is a mobile meter reading system. This is the meter reading system that we carry around once a month. It goes in the truck. Virtually it's a computer in a suitcase that it goes out. It's programmed to read all the meters. We drive up and down the streets. It pings the water meters, sends a signal back. It gets the meters in there. We bring them into the billing department and load them in. The old system is about 12 years old already that we've been reading our own meters, and it is a computer, so it's past its life on that. Item number 4, we evaluated that. Instead of replacing that, I am proposing that we just eliminate that item out of there. We'll run the truck as it is instead of making some modification and changing the body, and we'll run the truck as is, propose to replace it in next year's budget. Item number 5 is new roof, new downspouts, new gutters at our Kent Circle water tower. Just replacement. It's a 20-year-old building that's showing some wear and tear on that. Items 6 and 7 are both related to our sampling. These one is an automatic flushing device. The other one is a sampling station. In some of our areas that we don't have residents or homes in there that we can use for a sampling station, the dead end of a line in our distribution system, we need to be able to take samples out in that area all year long. This is nothing more than a little sampling silicock that's out there that is disguised, that people will not know if it's water or if it's a utility box. But we need to stagger a couple of these throughout the town where we have a very difficult time sampling. The flushing device, are areas that are on dead-end lines that someday we might have a development going out there, but right now it's on a dead-end line. We need to get some flow in those couple of those areas, so that's an automatic flushing device. We're looking at 3 of those units throughout town. The professional development, local meetings only that we'll send our staff to, some training, periodic training, all of our water department staff that have certified license, need to get reaccredited, or I'm sorry, they need to continue their education, continuing ed classes before they renew their water license. So this is just part of our training that we do provide with that. The professional associations, nothing has changed with that. Names will change a little bit, but the associations are the same. And on the line item for water department, again, the service agreement is the big change that we see, and that is due to the media exchange at our one of our well locations. Otherwise, takes care of water. Any questions on water?
Let me just point out, as a part of this, the capital that is included in this is included in the comment in the budget message that we are not anticipating any water sewer rates. So built into that rate is the capital that Paul has gone through here in both of those enterprise funds.
Sewer department, our sewer department, we have our two different sewer wastewater facilities. We have the one on Stearns Road, and then we have the excess flow on Devon Avenue behind Liseberg Park. Sewer system consists of about 150 miles of sanitary sewers. We have 20 lift stations staggered throughout town. Our average flow down at our wastewater treatment plant is about a little over 3.5 million gallons a day. With the wastewater treatment plant, we have currently we have 13 full-time employees that take care of all the lift stations, all the grounds, all the plants that we have throughout the town. Some of the items, that we're doing with the out at the wastewater treatment plant, we're proposing a channel monster, which is a grinder in front of our new pumps that will protect our pumps. It will just take the debris that's coming into the sewers, it chops it up and allows it to pass through those pumps, that it will not create any damage to those pumps on that. We are proposing to replace a 40-year-old roof on our distribution plant, at our influent structure, and to do some distribution arms at our nitrification towers. It's part of our air systems that we have. It brings oxygen throughout the whole one of our tanks throughout there. These items were built 35, 40 years ago when the plant went online. If not when they went online in the 1975 when it went online. They might have been one of the upgrades in the mid-'80s on that. It's getting wore out, so it's time to replace some of that. Every year we'll see a little bit more of that being replaced. I think some of you last year took the tour of the wastewater treatment plant, saw our new influent pump stations, our two 200 horsepower motors, our two 100 horsepowers. Those are all in now. They're all in operation, working fantastic on that, and it's amazing. They look so small when they're down in that hole that's 40 foot deep compared to what they were when they were on the ground when we saw them, looking up at them. And again, the telemetry system also affected the wastewater treatment plant, so that is monitoring all of our stations on that. We are proposing one new staff at our wastewater treatment plant. This would be a wastewater operator. This individual would be working down at the plant, mostly at the plant. This individual would also work with our pre-treatment facilities. Currently we have one pre-treatment in town company that needs pre-treatment. The other one is being proposed in town. They are taking a lot of our staff time to go over there, collect samples on a daily basis, monitor those systems out there. And it is a lot of documentation, a lot of follow-up paperwork. The new operator would be doing that. Currently, we're pulling staff off. Currently, we're using our staff that we currently have to do that with our one facility. As we get more online, it will be taking additional dedicated staff time. But with our operations down there, the additional maintenance that's needed down there, the operators, an additional operator is really needed down at the plant to maintain the existing facilities that we have down there, help out with the operations, cross-train this individual into the lab, so then when someone's on vacation or going on training, that they can slide into the lab tech's position and do the lab work also. So that, moving on into the capital outlay for the wastewater treatment plant. Item number one was the channel muffin that I did, channel monster that I did talk about briefly. This is just a grinder in front of those new pumps that are put in there, and it will prolong the life of those new pumps. The item number two is the digester covers. The digester covers that were installed probably about 14 years ago. We're seeing some wear and tear on those. They help with odor control throughout the plant. They also help with the process control also in that. We're seeing some failures on some end panels on those that just need to be maintained. This is not replacing all of them. It's strictly just replacing parts of them, having a company come out and patching them up, a couple of end panels on that. Item number three is the nitrification tower distribution arms, 20-year-old structure, and this is just arms that are in the nitrification tower that will allow air and oxygen to go in there and just help aerify the filtration system on that. The influent building roof, that is a 40-year-old structure that is starting to show some wear. Get a new roof on it now so that we can protect everything else that's in there. And then also new entrance doors at the influent building, the same building as what the new roof will be going on. Professional development, again, all local, nothing outside. Nothing outside of the state of Illinois, just ongoing training, some conferences down in Springfield, Peoria. Professional development details, again, nothing has changed on that. Very slight increase or price change on that. Nothing outside of the state. And then the line item, we are seeing with our new dewatering system, we're seeing a decrease in our sludge removal costs. Our dewatering system is working tremendously. We're taking more sludge out, but it's a drier sludge with our new dewatering system, so it has a direct reflect on dropping our trucking costs, dropping our sludge removal costs on that. I think there's not anything, drastically different from prior years. Any questions on the wastewater sewer?
Well, Paul, let me ask you, how did you determine the annual salary for the operator?
What we did, we do have our ranges with our operators, just like we have maintenance workers, certain different levels. We have ranges that those are in there. This is the starting range on that person. That's in line with the current contract. These are all union employees, so it is in that range of that area.
Okay, thank you.
Will you be hiring them right away if this is approved, or wait 6?
We'll probably wait 6. By the time we would do the advertisement and go through that, it would probably be at least 6 months, halfway into the calendar year, or into the fiscal year.
Paul, with regards to this channel monster, weren't these new pumps that were put in, weren't they designed to be able to function without something like that?
They can operate like that, but what we're finding out is the amount of debris coming in our sewer systems that we have no control on that. We could have a bar screen down there, but a bar screen would catch all those debris. Then you manually have to go down the 36 feet, have a staff member go down there, scrape that off, haul that material back up that way. One of the big issues, and we evaluated looking at that the pumps can do that, but you need to have some type of protection as a bar screen or this type of a system in there. With the current structure that's down there, when it was built, it had steps going all the way down there, galvanized steps down in there. When you have the sewer gases with any type of metal product, there's deterioration. Those steps right now are in so dilapidated shape, I will not let anybody use those steps. So the way that we have to go down there now is we're using our crane truck with our safety harnesses going down there to clean that. And that's an unsafe condition. We've priced out looking at replacing those stair treads down there, and the stair treads with the galvanized material, galvanized, not even looking at stainless steel, would cost us twice as much as what this product would be running. So we looked at other options on that. This is actually the cheaper of the two options. So we need some type of protection that's there, but this is the best and the cheapest solution that we could come up with.
Is this something that absolutely has to be done this year?
I wish I could have. It doesn't, let's put it this way. It doesn't have to be done this year, but it runs into some safety factors for our employees that we would have to address, and some real concerns with that. We'll have to do something with those steps to do that. We actually looked at, because when we replaced those pumps, that was underneath the low-interest loan that we had received through the IEPA for both the pump and the dewatering system. We actually looked at going back and asking them to increase that. We could not add anything on to that low-interest loan. So we looked at that. We can do without of it for a year, but there's other operations that I'll have to address that way.
How often do you have to clean those out if you keep doing it that way?
They have to be done on a daily basis.
Daily.
Yes.
3-man job each time?
At least 3, yes. 3 to be the safest. The only other, there is one other budget that is at the end here. It is the parking budget. That is the commuter parking area. And there is just one item that we have put in there for a capital outlay in there. It is the repaving of a portion of the parking lot. It's the Railroad Avenue portion between the depot, the Depot Museum, and Western Avenue. That was actually planned to be done a few years ago. We did not do it the same year that we did it was actually the year that we were doing the Depot Museum. When we did the Depot Museum, we actually lifted up the building, moved it onto the parking stalls, and brought it back. Due to the time frame in that summertime, we elected not to do that paving at that year. We held off on doing that, and we said we would wait until Railroad Avenue would be repaving. This year, we are doing Railroad Avenue, paving the roadway in that area, so that is the natural time to be doing this. We'll do it all at the same time we do the road. It'll blend real nice into it. So that is the one capital budget that we have in there. Otherwise, I think the parking budget is pretty much we maintain the parking lots. This does take care of our maintenance agreements for our pay boxes that we monitor, that the police department monitor and take care of on that.
So a few years ago, we didn't use that money.
We did not use that money a few years ago, no.
Nothing further? Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Paul, just 1 second.
Yes.
I'm just looking at the different totals, and again, I might be looking at this incorrectly. And I just can't quite understand this. On the page 3, street maintenance summary. For personnel, we're at proposed $2,202,000, which is slightly over $165,000 more than 2013-14. And then I just look back. For so many years, that was really a consistent number. So, I mean, 08, 09, you're at $2,017,000, 010, 9, 10, 2, 7, 37, 10, 11, $2,078,000, 11, 12, it creeps up to 2,1, 12, 13, it goes back down to $2,019,000. What funnels into that very large number where we would go $165,000 additional for personnel services?
A lot of that is overtime. Prior years, the 2012, 2013, we did not have. We were not at full staff. We were holding positions open. We currently have the street supervisor's position is being held open. We are proposing.
So the 165 is most likely from the snow plowing overtime and stuff?
It's probably the snow plowing overtime and positions that were filled and been caught up with overtime.
Okay, and then the same thing on each one of the total summary pages. I get curious about, especially in public works expenditures for regular salaries. In 10 and 11, we're at 766, 832, and 866, and then all of a sudden we're over 900,000. And I tried to do the math on these to equate it into the regular union raises, but it doesn't work. So,
I'm sorry, Mayor, what page are you on?
I'm just going through the summary pages on each one that tell you, the regular salaries. Some of them are titled differently. Personnel services. This one's titled regular salaries on public works expenditures on page 21. And I'd just like to circle back to the comment I made before when we have, being privy to some of the previous budgets, I do see cuts or not funding particular additional staff. So that would equate for some of this, and the overtime seems to equate for some of this. But generally speaking, the percentage increases here for what we're looking at 2014-2015 budget for all of these salary ranges are exponentially higher. In the sewer, the 2014-2015 summary personnel services is $2,040,000, whereas in 2008-2009 we paid $1,714,000. That's a $300,000 difference, almost $300,000 from 09 and 010 to 14. And some of these increases I can understand as union wages negotiated increases or whatever. So I'm just curious.
Where you are to respond to it.
Okay. Page 3. I guess the answer to that one is we have $165,602 of overtime in personnel services from 13-14 to 2000, from 13-14 to 14-15. Okay. Which the thing that disturbs me most about that that jump is that
If you could turn on, in the street maintenance department on page 7,
Okay, I'm there.
that's the line item detail,
Okay,
and that is going to give you, in total, for personnel services, that category, contractual services, and then you have all those line items. You
Okay.
can follow through from budget to requested, and you can see the percent change in each one of those line items.
okay.
A lot of times in those summary sheets, we have transfers, and those fluctuate from year to year. But to get the, for example, in street maintenance, when you look at total personal services, that category,
Yeah,
the budget for 2013-14 was $2,162,000. The requested is $2,202,060.
where do you
Overall,
see the 2 million?
Budgeted and
Okay.
requested.
Overall, for personnel services in the streets department, it's a 2% increase. If personnel services include regular salaries, overtime, temporary salaries, health insurance, retirement contributions, those total up to that 2% increase.
Okay.
So this sheet really gives you a clearer, detailed understanding of how the budget is increasing or decreasing.
It'd give me an understanding if anybody was getting raises or for adding employees or whatever. It'd show up on that sheet.
And then-
But then my biggest concern is that our proposed budget for 14-15 of $2,202,000 on the page 3
Right.
is actually, and if we've already paid the overtime in 13 and 14 for this catastrophic winter, and we're estimating that to come in at $2,036,458.
But 13, 14 is only an estimate at this point. These were done before. When these were done, the 13, 14 were done before all the overtime occurred on that. That's strictly an estimate. We couldn't project how much overtime we were when this had to be turned in before the snow winter actually occurred. So the estimate, the 13, 14, those estimates, when this finally gets printed, those will become actual numbers. Those are only estimate numbers at this point.
Okay.
We do the budget in December, and that was before the majority of our winter.
Yeah, I'm still a little blown back by the difference in the number between 08, 09, and 14, 15. I guess I have a hard time understanding why we would budget for when we just had the worst winter in the history of all winters, why we would budget for the worst history in all winters again for 14, 15.
To make sure if it happens, we have the service.
Okay. Maybe I got everybody lost there, but that...
I mean, Paul had said he always anticipates it's going to happen again. I don't buy that necessarily, but if it does happen, we're going to do exactly next winter that we did this winter.
I'm not excited about the answer, but I'll live with it.
The personal services on number 3 includes all of your group insurance on that. So if we go back to line or page number 7, and if we look back and you're comparing 10, 11, look at what we paid for group insurance. We paid $336,000, and this current year is $398,000.
Yeah.
So if you look at between the contributions for the wages themselves went from $1,356,000 to $1,427,000. So it's not the salary increase only. There are other parts in there that
makes sense.
The insurance is in that also.
Yep.
And your insurance is one of your bigger parts.
Unfortunately, that is
Yes.
true.
So that now that gap is, and that will follow true with all of them, because underneath the summary, personnel, that is including all of the health insurance, the retirement funds, your overtime.
Sure.
So all those have gone up a little bit.
Thank you for clarifying that for me. One other thing that I circled here, I thought at some point we had discussed not having an increase in the water rate contractually.
You mean for our residents?
For Elgin.
No, we're negotiating with Elgin.
So this is still kind of an estimate, too.
Yeah, we don't
It's
know what's going to
5%.
happen with
Okay, so
Elgin.
we have to-
But that's absolutely right. That's
So
the
we're not
goal,
going to make
Mayor.
that public record yet, that we know that number. Okay. Thank you, Paul.
I have one question, Paul. On page 47, we have rent to the railroad.
Yes. Rent to the railroad? All of our commuter parking area is on, most of it is on Metra's property. We pay rent to them for that space. We have done that ever since we've had a commuter parking stall in town.
Thank you very much.
We rent, they rent us, we maintain the right-of-way, we maintain the lawn along the railroad tracks. We are paying an agreement with them, a license agreement with us for those. So there's multiple spots for rent to them. We have water mains that cross, storm sewers that cross there. There's a book of agreements that we have with them, numerous.
Got you.
Well, shouldn't they repave then?
I'm sorry?
Shouldn't they repave if we're paying them rent?
No, that's part of the maintenance agreement.
That was really fun.
Thank you.
And probably need to maybe celebrate your last,
I was just wondering.
you're going to miss that, aren't you?
See what's in the chairman.
So do we have any further comments about the budget?
I have 2 departments left.
Well, do we have any more comments for tonight?
Well, it sounds like Trustee Kammerer has some serious considerations about spending that much on a very large truck. So is there anybody that has any other discussion on that?
How much would a new truck with the shorter arm cost?
I don't have that available, and it would be a wild guess, so.
Yes.
Is this a pretty hard estimate, 175,000?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Could we lease it out to other communities and make some money off this thing? Because obviously we're not going to be driving it around all the time.
It's working on the trees, though. That's,
I wouldn't recommend leasing out a piece of equipment to the station.
Even with insurance?
Here again, is it something that you think that we absolutely need this year? I mean, is it something that we know that there's going to be a big oak tree that needs to be taken down, that we could go to some of the tree companies and say, listen, can you take this down at a fair price?
Yeah, if it's a planned tree removal, there's not any issues there. But when you come into an emergency need and you need to have something addressed immediately, that's when your issues are. Can we postpone it? We can postpone anything for a year. Sure we can. It's just, how much more is it going to cost you next year, and what have you accomplished to get there? How much more next year, what does it cost you this year in advance of it? So by putting it off a year, is it really saving you any money, or is it costing you more and more?
I don't know if anybody asked you this before, Paul, and I apologize for asking you questions after you left, but how many times do you think we'll use this? We know how many of these tall trees we have, right? Do you have an estimate of how many times we'd probably use this? Because we could maybe get an easier answer. The thing that I think I'm battling with anyway is that we're running a $175,000 or $100,000 deficit on one of our departments, and now here we're talking about spending $100,000 on a piece of equipment we may use 6 times this year. And if we leased a truck that has the same capacity, does it cost us $1,000 a time? Does it cost us? That's kind of the information that would help me.
Well, obviously, within the next 2 years with the Emerald Ash Borer, it will probably be out. I bet it would be out probably 3 weeks out of a month, not just on a couple of days here, a couple of days there.
For the next 2 years?
I think for the
Okay.
next 2 years, yes, I do believe that's probably reasonable. If nothing else, bearing the winter, say for 10 months, out of that time it would be out. 10 months it'll be out, 3 weeks for 10 months on that point. Cost to rent that, I haven't evaluated renting one of those on a monthly basis. I would imagine we rent a loader every year. That's about $3,000 a month to rent that. This type of a truck with the liability issues with that, you're going to have damage to a tree. Just the nature of the work around that. You'd probably cost $5,000 to $7,000 a month to rent that. If you can find a company that would rent something of that nature.
Do any of the subcontractors have the 55 already?
Oh, most all of your tree services, that's the minimum size that they would have.
Ones that we're using to take down?
Yeah, they have those large trees, or that size too, yes.
Well, one of the things you might consider, as you know, we contract out many of our services. We do it when we think it is more cost-effective as opposed to taking it in-house. And so you might want to consider trying it out and looking at options in terms of contracting out or renting the equipment, and try it. And then after a year, you see that we really, didn't do so well. Maybe you'll feel better about it, and we'll give it a shot. I think it's also a service issue as well. We have to acknowledge that up front, that it won't be the level of service that our residents are used to. But given that amount of money, I'm not so sure that it wouldn't be something we ought to look at and perhaps try a contracting out and see how it goes, Trustee Kammerer.
I think it's a good idea. I just don't know. Paul brings up the idea of an emergency situation, but then again, that's rolling the dice. We may go all year without an emergency situation. I mean, we don't know if we're going to have storms or whatever. Obviously we will, but will they be tornado-type storms taking out, a massive amount of trees? Nobody knows that. So I would say if it's going to save us some money in some ways, it makes sense to look at contracting it out as we need it, if we can do that.
We'll still have the 35-footer, too.
Huh?
We'll still have the 35-footer.
What shape is that 35-foot truck in?
Right.
It can be used. It is in very rough shape.
It's in very rough shape?
It's in very rough shape. I think we just had it in for service. We have to get it certified every year, and I think it was like $5,300 that we spent this year. We need to keep it running, so we have to do that. So.
And that's the only other one we have?
Yes.
How much is that vehicle cost if we were to get the same size?
Yeah, that's. I'd hate to give a dead guess. I'd probably say it's probably close to $100,000 to replace that vehicle for vehicle.
Okay, so basically we're spending the difference of the two to get the larger vehicle.
Like I said, I would propose not. The value of the existing one that we have is probably very little, so I would not recommend. I'd run it to the ground and before I'd scrap it.
What's the size of that one?
35 foot.
Okay, so the 35 you're guesstimating brand new would cost how much?
Probably $100,000, and don't hold me to that.
So it needs to be replaced right now.
No.
I'm not proposing to replace that at this point.
He's going to use that one to fix lights. If we buy it.
If that truck fails, I've rented that one before when it's in for service. I've rented one. Those are easier, more available to rent than a larger.
Okay.
But, we can definitely hold off on the larger 55-foot. We can turn around and if we need that, we'll rent it for a month or something to try that out and contractual service it out. Not opposed to, postponing it and let's try some other options this year.
I'm not sure. It just seems to me that in times past when we've had some concerns about, and it falls in your department often because your equipment is so expensive, but it seems to me in times past we've been really glad that we spent the extra dollars to get for capital outlay. The 55-foot arm at this time in our lives I think is real important. To lease, for you to go ahead and lease for a month, I think we're just putting off a decision that needs to be made. And I, for one, would rather see us buy the 55-foot arm so that we have it, if we need it, after the ash borer removal is finished. because I think size does matter in this case.
Well, next year, any other vehicles drop dead that have to be replaced? So it's not, we won't have to choose one versus the other, or the other vehicles are pretty healthy, or, you know? Okay, so they'll be covered. Okay.
Okay, so do we want to push through and do another department tonight?
Thank you, Paul. We'll probably,
We have two more departments, so if we're going to continue our discussions on these issues in addition to two more departments, I might suggest we do that.
don't we have an off meeting scheduled already that will replace the previous?
No, we're just skimming through on the regular agendas.
But we could add because before, when the schedule first came out, we had a pre-meeting before the last meeting and a pre-meeting before this one, and then somebody, who won't mention any names, couldn't make it. So we just nixed that. So can't we do that again? I think it'd be better to have fresher minds trying to figure some of this stuff out. So. Your chair.
Yeah, well, all right, then we'll adjourn it next Tuesday. Is that what you want to do?
Yeah. What do we have left?
Tuesday or Wednesday, whichever you would like. If you would like to start early, as we would have done at that last meeting, we could begin at 5:30 with some dinner and start the discussion at 6, or we can just go to your regular 7 o'clock time. If Tuesday doesn't work, we could do it Wednesday, whatever's convenient to the board.
Which departments do we have left?
You have building and finance.
I don't think we need a whole separate night for those two departments. No.
We can do a pre-meeting
We can do it.
then.
Do it
Yeah,
early.
so let's just keep the regularly scheduled board meeting
It's like trying to
and not add another board meeting.
Is that pushing us too close to the deadline if we run into some snags? End of April, right?
Build in more time, so you have plenty of time for your.
Is that good with everybody?
Yeah.
Yes.
Sure.
Okay. Pre-meeting April on the first April meeting.
Pre-meeting.
On April
Pre-meeting
1st.
meeting.
Great.
April 1st?
We're gonna
And I,
be-
for one, need to think about a little bit more about this truck thing
Why
because
don't-
I
can
agree
we,
with both people.
Can we have them run some numbers? I mean, how much it would cost to rent? And
Yeah.
then how much another 35-footer?
Valerie, can we get some facts on that? Because I think that would help our decision on this truck.
Yes.
Trustee Aaron's brought up some great points at the end here. There's been some great points made all
Yes.
around. I'm undecisive on it
Yes.
because I can see the benefit both ways. I don't like the idea of our Public Works Department dealing with an old beat-up truck when they're up 35 feet.
Yes.
That bothers me somewhat. So I think if we had some numbers based on, and obviously you don't have the exact, but certainly we know how many trees qualify in the village that are over 30 feet tall. So we can get an educated guess of how much it would cost us to lease that piece of equipment and how many times we would do it. And if it seems like the bare minimum lease amount number of times is 10, at $8,000 for 10 months,
I'd be happy to put that number
that would be
together.
good.
Okay, then we'll adjourn for the evening.
If that's all, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Trustee Aaron, seconded by Trustee Ranky. The clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Aaron's?
Yes.
Hammer?
Yes.
Carbonaro?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Ranky?
Yes.
We are